is still that this is just a temporary relocation.
Okay, excellent. Well, right now, hold on, I want to say, it says that we are, in fact, live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a special edition of Off the Record this evening as we discuss, for better or for worse, um, does love matter with Brother Gilbert and Sister Thiah Muhammad. I thank you all. I want to thank you all for coming on with us to be our special guest today.
Thank you.
Alaikum salam, Mimi. Thank you for watching as well. Boom. Brother Charles always watching. Thank you, Brother Charles, for always showing love. Peace, Naima, to you as well. Sister Risa is back. Thank you, Sister Risa, for always showing love. Alaikum salam, ma'am. Okay, let's get straight into it. And if you all have any questions for Brother Gilbert and Sister Risa, please be sure to write them. Peace, Brother Josh. Thank you, Brother Charles, for always showing love. Okay, well, first things first. Who chose on who first?
Say you said that one more time. You said that one more time, please. I want to make sure I got that correct.
Yes, sir. Who chose on who first? Who was the one who made the first move?
Who made the first move?
I don't make first move, my brother.
Okay.
I am the gift, black man.
Yes, ma'am.
That ain't sister.
Well,
okay.
Well, you can. I guess if you let her say it in that particular line, I made the first move in regards to pursuit, because our connection was before I actually made an actual connection, and I'll explain that in a minute. We saw each other at Savior's Day, and in passing, and in a small conversation sparked, and we knew each other from years prior because she went to Xavier University in New Orleans, and I knew her from the mosque in New Orleans, maybe like 15, 20 years ago.
Yep.
And in that process, we knew similar individuals. Well, at Savior's Day, when we were passing, I had, I can say a birdie or a wise man, Brother Minister Willie, whispering something in my ear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In terms of, man, you remember Sister Thiah? So he made me remember her, but I had just spoken to her after him asking me about her. And therefore, through his wise counsel, I put in a request for Sister at that point. Just finding out more information if she's single, she available, and we both had basically that. So I put in a pursuit in that particular piece. She was in St. Louis at the time, and I was in Atlanta. I made an official request for her.
Okay, excellent. Well, Sister Thiah, why did you accept the request from Brother Gilbert?
So I was not going to. So I was like unsure, like I was leaning in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Why is that? Tell us why.
Well, okay, first, he had asked for me nearly 20 years prior. So
okay, the plot thickens.
I guess technically it was more like 15-ish years prior. He had asked for me, and something happened. It was like some type of miscommunication between the captains or something like that, and that didn't happen, right? So that didn't happen. He got married, I got married, and that was that, right? And so fast forward, all this time later, we ran into each other, and he made a point at Savior's Day to stop and talk to me and my two boys. Because the way he put it, it was like real, like we saw each other from across the we both stopped, and the brother made a point to stop me and my children, and we were talking, and just some really brief words, how you doing, how's the family doing, that kind of thing. And that was that. So when I was on my way back from Savior's Day, and no, I had been back from Savior's Day about a week or so. and I got a call from sister student Captain Beatrice in St. Louis. She and I were best friends, and so she called me. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. No, it was more like 5:30 because she was on her way to work, right? So she calls me and she's like, Tia, who is this old man Gilbert who is asking for you? Don't you have something you can tell me? And so we had talked, and he sent over the request sheet or whatnot to the brother captain. And I looked on the sheet, and it said that he had been married twice before. Mm. And so when I saw that, I'm like, I was like, red flag. And sister, I'm talking to Sister Dietrich, and she was like, Tia, give it a chance. You don't know, it might work, because I really was in the, I was okay.
Okay.
Before, and I was good with being single. I was good. Like I was good, Brother Joshua. Like I was so at peace, right? Like I
Okay, 1 second. While the Wi-Fi, this is a Wi-Fi connection. The Wi-Fi, though, you froze up for a minute, but it's all good.
Okay, yes, sir. So that's what he's referring to loosely. I was very happy as a single person, and so so when she told me, she said, Tia, give it a try. You never know. And then I knew Brother Willie, and I know Brother Willie is good people, and Brother Gilbert has always had that reputation of being a really good brother. And so I said, okay, let me give it a go. I'll know with the
Oh man. Okay, thank y'all for being patient with us while they having a Wi-Fi connection. Okay, okay. You went out for a minute. Okay, where they're fixing their Wi-Fi connection, I'm going to respond to the comments. Thank you all for watching, Brother Charles. Thank you, Brother Charles, for watching as well. Okay, they're back. And thank you, Sister Katina. Walaikum salam.
So I don't know what you didn't hear.
Okay, no. So the last part I heard was he was always known as a good brother.
So he was always that. So I'm saying, and Sister Dietrich is telling me, just give it a try. You never know, right? You don't know the conditions or why he had been married before. And, my thought process, okay, if they were MGT, I'm not trying to be in that group. You're not going to be running through the MGT.
Oh, man. Okay, 1 second. While the Wi-Fi is getting back together. That's right, Brother Charles. Savior's Day is where it messes up. Okay, now the Wi-Fi is going out, Brother Gilbert.
Is that our end?
Yes, sir. It's on your end.
What I just want to move to a different area, so I'm not sure. Let me know if it clears up or how.
Yes, sir. And while they're moving to another room, I want to thank everyone for watching. We have some great questions for our guests because we always want to use the platform dealing with relationships to promote love and happiness. And we have a couple of you are just joining us. They were they've been together, they've been married, but they were going to be together 15 years ago, but it didn't work out. But now they're after that they got married, and we're listening to their beautiful love story of Brother Gilbert and Sister Thiah Muhammad as they go into another room to get better Wi-Fi. I thank you all for watching off the record, and please continue to ask questions and engage with our guests because that's how the show goes. Okay,
brother?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
No, so y'all fine.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now, Brother Gilbert, why did you choose to pursue Sister Thiah?
Well, to be honest with you, because she'd always stood out to me as I didn't know anything in terms of her personally, but my first impression of her was in New Orleans, was she seemed a person very noble sister, nobility of character. She came across as she wasn't a person that was outwardly open. She was very guarded, but to some degree, she seemed like a very interesting young lady. Just for me personally, she always, for some reason, she had a different mystique about herself. And it pretty much was something that I was interested in. She, she kept herself in a certain dignified manner that I always kind of, always was curious about. Like, man, what type of sister this, would she be? And the first, so her character has always been something that I pretty much was, I respected, as a brother, and for me personally, in the phases I was in my my life, I didn't want to make a mistake, so
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was looking for individuals who exemplified a certain type of character that I felt that can make a good mate to some degree, but for the most part, there was initial attraction to her physically and also her character-wise.
Excellent, excellent. And Sister Thiah, who said "I love you" first?
He said, "I love you."
I disagree with that one.
Well, he said, "I love you" first. But I think we both felt it really early simultaneously. And when he said it, it was easy for me to reciprocate it. It was easy. Like it was really scary how fast it was that we professed love to each other. It was really scary. It's like we don't even advise anybody to do it as quickly as we did.
But I don't necessarily remember it as keenly as she does. She's saying I did. I don't remember it. You got revisionist history. I want to say this, man. When I put in a request for her, at the time, I was fine with being single at that point. Like I was comfortable with being alone, and I went to a point where I was okay. So it wasn't no desperation piece for me, to be honest with you. I would always joke with Brother Willie. I said, man, if I don't get this response back in like 2 more days, it's a wrap for her. I was like, in my mind, yes, I wasn't so much caught up on where it had to be her, but I knew that I was a good catch for whoever, so with that's that.
That's right, Brett Gilbert. That's
right.
No,
really. My mindset was like, it's her loss if she, but, yes, but then again, it would have been both of our losses because by Allah's grace, she has added to me, in such a way that I'm grateful, But for the most part, on the love thing, I guess it was mutual to some degree, but we fit perfectly. Like we were at a point in our lives where we was in a similar mode. Because I know for her, she didn't say it, but she was like, man, she was willing to be the first Muslim nun, right? Like she was like, I can go ahead by myself and be fine. But
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So at that point, I like the fact that she was comfortable with who she was without a man, without a brother, so that was an attractive piece for me.
We were both, I think it's important to highlight that we were at phases in our lives where we had standards. We knew ourselves so well that we knew what we needed, the kind of persons we needed, and we weren't willing to compromise. So for us, it was like, okay, we can try this courtship thing because that's what courtship is for, to figure out if it's a good fit. And if it's not a good fit, praise be to Allah. And so if it is a good fit, praise be to Allah, right? And so that was the thing, because we were both of us were so happy just as individuals alone. We were living very happy, fulfilling lives before each other.
Okay, excellent. Well, okay, I'm going to start with you, Brother Gilbert, then you, Sister Thiah. How did you know that you were able to, you said you all were divorced, how were you able to heal and know that you wanted to love again?
Yeah, for me personally, that process, it took a minute. I think it took maybe a couple of years for me. because I felt like I sincerely went into it with the right intentions in heart and mind. And I really felt like I gave my all, you know. So when it dissolved, I went through a phase of accepting the fact that it just wasn't meant. We were going two different ways in our lives. For the most part, my healing came in, like, for me personally, when I knew I was at peace with myself, you know, and I was content with. I went through a process, beloved, of really like courting myself in a strange way. Like, you know, I took myself on dates and stuff that I wanted to do.
Yes,
just
sir. Yes,
me
sir.
personally, I would have my Fridays just for myself. I was a single father at the time, and I would have one of the sisters watch my, you know, MDT who I can trust, watch my son, and I would go out on Fridays and just do things for me personally. And I found out what Brother Gilbert was comfortable with, what I like. And once I got to know myself better, it was easy for me to, man, I fall in love. When I fall in love with myself, it was easy for me to find somebody of what I really, you know, that was a compliment to that, you know. So for the most part, I think for me, healing came in when I was comfortable with who I was as a man, as a Muslim man, you know. And so I gave me a greater definition of really what I wanted in a man, you know. So I had a clear picture of what I wanted. Like, in truth, I went through a real process of really experiencing what it would be like to make me happy. So I made myself happy. So I didn't need nobody else to do that for me. It was just a beautiful, I think, for me personally, a connection that I was looking for.
Excellent. And thank you all for your questions. And Brother Gilbert, thank you for that, because I'm definitely going to tell people to do that. Court yourself. I like that. Sister Thiah, how did you know that you were healed and you were ready to love again?
I can tell you, you know, there are phases after you go through divorce. There are many phases. And I had been, when my husband and I started courting, I had been divorced for about 7 years. And I knew one of the ways I knew that I was in a healthy space, because during that time, you know, you go through a lot of self-reflection and a lot of growth. And I knew that I was in a good space when my thoughts weren't monopolized by being upset with my ex-husband, or by just wishing he would do better, or focusing on just how I felt, how horrible I felt he was. Like, when that didn't monopolize my thoughts, and I really didn't care, then that was a clear indication, you know, for me that I was good. Also, I had a very, like my husband mentioned, I had a very clear idea of the kind of man that I needed. And what I had done was I prayed and asked Allah for that man. Yes, and then I forgot. Yes. Like, I forgot. I declared it in my prayers and I forgot about it. Like, when I tell you forgot about it, like years prior, I had written it in a journal, what I had asked Allah for. And I had just totally forgotten it. So when my husband appeared, he fit the bill so perfectly. It was amazing. It was so amazing. And my husband is so much like my dad. Like, I used to wonder how in the world I married the first time somebody who was so not is the best, right? But when I married my husband, or when I started courting him, I realized they are so much alike. Like, they could literally be father and son. And so I think that was one, those two factors helped me to know for sure that, you know, that it was all good. It was a great space.
Excellent. And thank you all for your transparency and helping us, you know, bringing us along with your love story. My brother Rashad says, Brother Gilbert is my brother for real, for real. Sister Teresa says, yes, great points. Fall in love with yourself first. How long have you all been married?
Going on 7 years now.
Yeah, 7
Okay.
years next month. No,
Okay.
at the end of this month.
Okay.
At the end of this month.
She forgets it.
It's all good. 7 years, excellent. And brother Gilbert, please give your son the greetings from from me and my family because we haven't seen him since he was younger. But you know what I'm saying, he was definitely a soldier. What do you all do for fun? Separate and together. Separate and together. And how important is that to do things separate and together?
Yes, those are great
Good question.
Right.
You know.
What do we do? Separate for me, I'm a sports person. Like before the Nation of Islam, I was a sports geek. Like sports used to be religion, and I used to gear things around sports. I definitely weaned myself away from sports as much, but I still enjoy that avenue. I also enjoy working out, going to the gym, being around doing brotherly things, hanging with brothers and going to movies, still doing those things and it's important for me to have those quality moments, but I would also say it's just as important for us to have that quality time for ourselves as well. Like it's every year we take out a portion of our vacation time for each other without the children, anybody else. That's like mandatory for us.
Yes, sir.
And so as far as for us, we like for quality time, for fun for us, we like watching a lot of movies together. That's our biggest thing is watching movies and chill.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I would say that's one.
Cause it's here. Okay, they working on the Wi-Fi right now.
Like at home, just chilling, watching something and talking. One of the things I love so much about my relationship with my husband is that this is the only man I've ever had such a strong connection with, so much so that we talk about everything. And so we talk, and I remember, just to tell you really quickly, we went a couple of years ago to my hometown in St. Louis, and we stayed at my grandmother's house. And the next morning, she was like, y'all woke me up in the middle of the night. It was like 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, what you mean, Mom? What are you talking? She's like, y'all, what were y'all doing? Y'all sound like y'all were talking. I'm like, oh, we were talking. Sometimes we just wake up in the middle of the night talking, and we talk for hours. And she's like, well, what do y'all have to talk about so much, right? And so that's one of the things I love, being able to just converse with my husband about the most stimulating things, the most significant things, and we like to read together. We used to do a lot, especially if we would take a road trip or something. We would read, whichever one of us wasn't driving, would read together, and we would have such great conversations. And those are things that we did when we were courting, because we were courting long distance. And so those are things that we do together. Personally, I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I do like to just have my times when I'm looking at something on my phone or something like that. But I really enjoy myself when it's just me by myself and I'm able to dive into whatever project I'm working on. So that's kind of what we do.
And brother, am I saying one thing, Brother Joshua?
Yes, sir, of course.
That was one of the things that attracted me to my wife, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I got to a point where I was like, man, I like to study. I like to read, and I like to study. And for me personally, I got to a point like, man, can I find a sister that actually likes to do these things as well? But for me personally, like, that was the first sign for me, because I know sisters that do certain things. I know brothers that do as well, do certain things at the beginning that they don't necessarily continue to do at the end as well, just to impress the other person. But for the most part, we naturally, like, she used to ask me to read, and we would read books. And even to this day, we like to self-improve together. Like if I'm on to something new, new information, she's the first person that I'll pass it on, and she takes it and runs with it. So we go into courses and seminars and things, and we grow together. You know.
I'm gonna tell you, Brother Joshua. Is it okay for me to jump
Man,
in?
it's y'all. Man, it's all about we learning from y'all.
One of the things, first, like it's just to give my disclaimer. I love this man with everything in me, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you hear me say one of the things I love about my husband 50 million times, it just kind of is what it is, right? But one of the things I most love about my husband is that he has a regular routine that he does every day without fail. And when he's getting ready in the morning, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this.
Go ahead.
When he is the most spiritual and self-reflective man I've ever encountered personally, next to my dad. And so with that being said, he has a daily routine where when he gets up in the morning, he's getting himself ready for work. He always plays some type of, he goes through this thing where he plays a recording of the Supreme Wisdom, and then he plays these various different audios, some type of inspirational type of audio, right? Stuff that really makes you to really think and reflect and just build upon self-development. And he's serious about it. Like he does it regularly. So, and then he's the only man I've ever met who, again, personally, who meditates. Like my husband taught me about meditation.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And so that's something that we do together, and that I've never that kind of trait and that type of connection to be able to have a mate with whom you can do that kind of stuff. You can really get into some serious self-development type of activities on a regular with. It's the most priceless thing ever.
Excellent. Okay. Wonderful. And thank y'all. I never knew that about Brother Gilbert. Rashad said, my brother Rashad says, Brother Gilbert knows his music too. He put me onto a lot of New Orleans artists. And he said, the sister Thiah taught me credit. I still use her notes. Thank you, Rashad, for that. Yes, sir.
I do like music. That is my pastime too. I love listening to music.
We connected in our courtship over Jay-Z, brother.
Don't hate.
Like that's what we should have told you. What we love to do together? We love to go to a Jay-Z or Jay-Z and Beyonce concert.
Okay, absolutely.
Listen. That it is all the way live for us.
Good. How do you all deal with the in-laws and them trying to get accepting you or not accepting you? How does that work?
How we deal with the in-laws? Yes,
sir.
Ooh, that's a real good one, man. Y'all trying to cause trouble, right?
No.
That was a work in progress for the most part, because I think one of the things we really take for granted is that when we marry a person, we also marrying their family as well, and I know you'd be like, man, I ain't worrying about the family. I just want her. I don't want it. I don't want children. I don't want nothing. It doesn't necessarily work like that. So I think it's different dynamics, because there's certain things I can get from her family that she probably can't because of relationships that was already built. And there's certain things she can get out of my mother that certain get her to think about certain things that I probably wouldn't, because my mama used to hearing me. So I think just over the time in the family or the in-laws seeing how much we love each other, it causes them to see and trust us as well and build a relationship through that. So at first, it could be a challenge because the two people are trying to establish their own relationship, and sometimes in-laws can have a hold on the person's that's a natural, because they haven't really bonded with their mates yet. Like you know, your in-laws have a special type of connection with you. And oftentimes when you get married or you fall in love, you tend to get everybody else who is close and you focus on that particular love, you know. So
Yes,
for us, it has been a process, but I have grown to love her family like they're mine. I think she's doing